Be friendly. You want to introduce yourself, just the first name?
Yes, Aeolia.
Aeolia. All right. Thanks for coming up, Aeolia.
Thank you.
So please.
I just found this evening's opening meditation to be very peaceful, and I attribute a lot of that to the fact that we're here together in a group.
Yeah.
And the power of the group and the power of the community.
Yeah. There's a field of consciousness that really we're sharing together, isn't it? What was your experience of that sense of making no effort, and what was your sense of throughout your meditation and kind of checking in on that?
Well, you know, the spiritual director is alive and well. But taking a slightly more relaxed form for certain.
All right.
It tied into something that I read just this week about meditation being not an effort to go somewhere,
yes,
but a tuning into what is,
right.
That depth of that spiritual peace that is at the foundation who we are.
Exactly. Very good.
And so what you were saying earlier sort of reminded me of that foundation that had been laid earlier in the week for me.
Excellent.
And certainly the combination helped with no efforting.
Right. Because it's almost like whenever there's an effort, there is this, there's a number of steps that needs to happen. There needs to be created a doer to make an effort, right? And when there isn't a doer being created to make an effort, then that base that we're talking about, which is always here, it doesn't have any interference as a sense of coming more into the foreground of the consciousness, right? But the interesting thing is that it doesn't necessarily turn off the mind, does it? Because part of experience, almost always, except for very short periods of time, is the mind, right? So let's look at when you said that the spiritual director was present but quieter. Is that what your experience was? It was kind of like not so much in the forefront?
Yes. And my spiritual director often says things like, just focus on your breath.
Yes, right.
But
yeah. I was doing some of that myself, and the breath felt really good that I was putting, It says sometimes it says some really good stuff,
She was behaving herself.
Right, exactly. There wasn't this stuff going on.
Right. But I would occasionally wonder, well, now, is that efforting?
Here's the big question.
Uh-huh.
Because I think you know the answer to this. It didn't feel like efforting, did it? Then the answer is no. You see, again, it's like put all benchmarks are off here. It's kind of like when someone says meditation, you really want to not put your attention on thoughts, right? Oh my God, I'm putting attention on thoughts. Stop. Okay, this big guy's being created, like these big hooks, oh God, somehow I'm not letting go though. I wonder why I'm not letting go, this grabbing person,
Isn't that like saying, don't think about pink elephants?
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. It's like, very different than saying, look at that pink elephant. There's no effort in looking at the pink elephant. It's that thinking process. I was going to say, so just like someone saying, don't think about things. Now we have this new model. Don't let the spiritual director be there. But that's not what we're saying. We're only saying make no effort. That's it. And the mind is present. A wise man once said, that voice in the mind stops when that body stops. That's when that voice stops. When you kind of get that one straight, it's like, it kind of...
Fair package deal.
Yeah. But it's kind of a relief to know that, because now you know that you're not trying to get rid of it. I mean, there will be times that will be silent. That's true. You know, there's times in consciousness where, you know, in a meditation or even just being in the forest or something, right? The mind just like falls so far in the background, it is not even present, and then we have this feeling of there, with the mind not being there, the, you know, our identification with our separate sense of self is not there, and then there's this feeling of I am the mountain. I am the trees. There is no, but there is even like there isn't a voice saying that. It's a direct experience of that.
It's similar to the sound of the bowls. To be in the sound and present with the sound of the bowls was a very good beginning of no efforting, because it one can sort of be it and be with it. Yeah. Right.
Exactly. So, so the invitation here is this is what Papaji sometimes called true meditation. It's not trying to get into a state. It is just making no effort, doing nothing. And then this is the other part of it, and then find out what happens next. Because whatever is happening next is it, you see. There's no losing on this one, you know. There's no doing this one wrong. Because whatever it is. Even if it's the spiritual director going, you're not doing it right. It's like, that's part of it too. You see, it's all part of it. So can you imagine, this is kind of the invitation really, is what if the invitation was to be in true meditation every moment in your life?
I had an experience this week of being in an acupuncture session, accompanied by jackhammers. There was construction going on.
Oh,
and there were jackhammers going on. Very loud, potentially very jarring. And I was reminded by a teacher once saying, it's not the world's job to be quiet for us.
Yes, I love that. Thank you.
And it was a really interesting practice to just be with the jackhammers and not be efforting against them,
right.
But just to just be with it.
And what was the experience like? It was different then, right?
It was very different.
Very good. Tell me how it was different.
Well, because I wasn't efforting against the sound of the jackhammers. It was just, okay, there's jackhammers. I wish there weren't jackhammers, but there are. And I desire to be with the jackhammers.
Right, got it. So I want to, let's take another take on this about exactly what happened, because that is what happened in the realm of, in this work we call the second body of consciousness. The second body of consciousness is when our identity is infused with a sense of consciousness and awareness. So all of a sudden, we're getting more and more experiences of our separate sense of self falling away, and we're actually able to do the things that you're talking about right now. Because maybe before we couldn't do that, It's like we would try to do it, but we couldn't do it. But all of a sudden, we're having some success with it, right? This is us moving higher up the second body of consciousness. It's like all of a sudden awareness comes more into the foreground, so it's almost easier and preferable to do that, right? So at one level of the second body of consciousness, your report is very accurate. Okay, now I want to open up the picture a little bit more to what was happening on the third and fourth body of consciousness. The third and fourth body of consciousness, the third body of consciousness is when that one who is doing all that drops away, and not only drops away, but doesn't exist. The third body of consciousness is called the emptiness of awareness. In other words, it's just pure awareness, and there isn't like somebody there. The perceiver and the perceived like merge into one, right? So there's just the experience. We all know this so well because when we're born, and for the first few months of our lives, we all experience that directly. You know, there was no Johnny here, there's no Mary here. There was just this consciousness being perceiving directly through the perceptual organs of the body. And you know, even the most conservative schools of developmental psychology agree that when the infant is first born, it is not yet individuated from its environment yet. Developmentally, there's a stage where that happens, but so this is very familiar, you know. And then in the fourth body of consciousness, there is the universe at play, where there is the relatedness with everything that is joining everything and moving everything in love. Okay. So if we look at that experience that you had as being something else was happening at a third body of consciousness, exactly at the same time, kind of like in the same moment, but just at another level. It had nothing to do with you saying, now I'm going to let go. You know, because the mind references and goes, well, you know, it's probably a good idea to do this. I know, you know, it's a better idea than like getting upset about it. So now I'm not going to get upset about it. What I'm proposing is on the third and fourth body of consciousness, consciousness was pulling you in. It had nothing to do with you at all. The consciousness that is being built as a foundation in your life is now becoming a magnetic force and drawing you into the space of that silence and that oneness. And then what happens in the second body of consciousness, as soon as that starts happening, is going, hey, I'm doing pretty well here, you know?
And the perceiver is then back.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Very good. You got it, right? And it's kind of cool because, you know, as you raise up the level of the second body of consciousness, it's like those kinds of things encourage us to keep us on the path. You know, if we failed every time, we'd lose interest. You know, we get the idea that it really works, but there's a point where you start going high enough on the second body of consciousness where that one starts getting in the way of transcending into the third and fourth body of consciousness. Right. In fact, that's a really tricky point because when the spiritual director starts getting a lot of power, you know, at one point to transcend to the third and fourth body, that one who has the power has to like let go of the power and give the power away to. It seems like at that point you have to give the power away to not have it be my power anymore, but thy power, right? There's no beneficial goodies for you anymore, you know? It's all about in the service of everything now. So it's a very tricky point, you know? And the only reason I bring it up is because everybody in this room is at that point right now. You already have probably more power than what's good for you right now. So we try something? Okay, just this is a little third body of consciousness piece, all right? It's the emptiness of awareness, all right? So we're going to go there in a very kind of odd way, all right? We're going to go through something called what's called a body of forgetfulness, all right? As we get older, especially when you start hitting like 60 and above, it's like you start getting really good at this body of forgetfulness stuff. It's much easier, you know. So this is how we're going to do it, all right? When we are looking for something that we can't remember, a person's name, or we left our key. I just got this droid and I just subscribed to this thing that it has this thing where you know, even if your phone is like off, it will like turn it on for you if you can't find it, you know?
Counter to the forgetfulness.
Right,
Well,
exactly. Anyway, what happens in the mind for a moment? Let's go through it together, all right? What happens is when we can't remember something, what we do is we go to the place in the mind where we think it's stored, right? But what happens when we get there is it's not there, right? If we're forgetting something, we're going to that place in the mind, and what we thought was there, it isn't there. But what I want to kind of ferret out in this experience is when we go to that place where it isn't there, what is there? You know, what we find is there is nothing there, right? So if we can kind of let go of that whole stuff about, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm going to be late if I can't find my keys or something, you know, or darn it, I should have got that losing my phone service earlier or something, you know. Right. If you just let go of all the stuff around that and go to the pure experience, and let's do this together, okay? We all know the experience of what it's like, and we can all do this together. We all know the experience of what it's like to go to our mind when we've forgotten something and find that it's not there, and there is a feeling that's there, which is there is nothing but space there. There is nothing to grab onto. You're trying desperately for there to be something there, but what you actually find there is nothing. So it's just touching into that place for a moment. I'd like everybody to do that. It's a feeling sense of going there and there's nothing there. All right, very good. So can you tell me what happened for you when you kind of, what is the experience that accompanies of that sense of going there and nothing's there?
Well, based on recent experience, what's the feeling that I got tuning into that nothingness,
right,
is I experience it as an open channel.
Right, very good.
And through that channel, not my conscious mind will come
right
where that object is.
Okay, well that's nice. Someone told me they just pray to St. Christopher and it always works. So, you know, hey, whatever shakes your booty, whatever like shakes your booty. But the whole idea is that if you take away even that part of the benefit,
okay,
and just go to what you're talking about, you know, is that it's like what is absent is the conscious mind, isn't it? And because the conscious mind is absent, it gives rise to something much deeper, right? We're going to call what that deeper is the true sense of self, right? Because there is no thingness to who you are, right? We could say that going back into the thing that's called the emptiness of awareness, right? It is an empty sense, isn't it? It's not like I'm excited about anything, or it's a state that is so subtle because it's just neutral that most of the time that neutral space where this can arise. Even sometimes it's the spiritual director. It's just trying to direct you somewhere. So in the middle of that directing, this neutral place is missed. I remember when I was studying with a teacher, Hamid Ali, in Berkeley. He developed a method called brilliant methodology. He called it the diamond heart work. And when he started talking about the space of awareness, because that's really, now we're going back into the space of awareness, just really being empty space. That is aware, right? Has consciousness to it. He said that we are going in and out of this perfect enlightened state all the time of just this neutral. but we're missing it because it is getting so mixed in with all the rest of experience, we don't get to see it, so it gets passed right over. This is what Papaji meant when he said, who you are is closer than your own nose because you're looking over your nose and not noticing your nose. So get a sense right now, because this is the place that once it's contacted, what we're actually doing is ferreting this place out right now of, this is the emptiness awareness, where the non-material, of this world sense of who you are gets to just be directly, it's like plugging right into it. Very good. So tell me, I'm feeling this now. Like what's happening for you right now?
Well, as I'm listening to you, I have an awareness of the opportunity to refine my experience of that.
Right, exactly. Refine the way I like saying it is, rather than refining something about me, but having that refinement of awareness, becoming more refined. It's kind of like what I felt was a vibrational shift, where that refinement awareness is showing itself as this opportunity. Very nice. Look at this smile, it's great.
All those smiles out there.
All those smiles out there. All right, thank you so much. Namaste. Beautiful. And you're right, thank you for that. It wasn't just your refinement of awareness, it was like the whole room kind of became, the frequency of the room just, like this. She goes, very good, thank you. Anybody else like to share what their experience of